Hello, this is Mole Man in the morning. Good Mole Man to you. Today, part 4 of our series of the agonizing pain in which I live every day.
Who disrupts my coronation?
Everyone has been destroyed because of this freak. I won't allow it! These babies just saved this lame fest party!
Guys, what's going on? You are listening to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman, and as you may hear, I'm actually flying solo today as Alex is at his mom's place celebrating his brother Andreas' birthday, so happy birthday to Andreas. Alex is getting spoiled with puppy kisses right now, not gonna lie. A little bit jealous. So anyway, guys, that means you're gonna have to put up with me for the rest of the next hour or so here on the podcast. And we obviously have some reviews coming up from me and Alex. Alex is going to be talking about some recent Bluray releases of some Troma films, and I'm going to be talking about a couple of Dungeons and Dragons book, including the Dungeons and Dragons Rules Expansion gift set, which includes a brand new book, Monsters of the Multiverse, and we're also going to be talking about the newest Critical Role book, Call of the Netherdeep, which is, well, you'll have to hear my review to see what I think about that. And, hey, if you've been following any of the Dungeons and Dragons news over the last week, it's been a pretty good time, but I think I do talk about that during the news. So, as I most often do off the top of the show, I typically talk about what's been going on in my week. And this week has been pretty monumentally huge for me in terms of personal development. So, two things. So, number one, I finally finished my course for the semester. I start again for my next compulsory course that I need to start working towards graduation. I start that in early May. And then I graduated my poetry course with an 88.2%. So according to Blair, with honors. So I haven't done that since, oh wow, I don't know. I kind of should look at my marks. I'm pretty sure I've gotten really high ones before, but this one felt pretty good. I actually had a lot of fun in this poetry course. I learned a lot about myself, actually. A lot of personal reflection, I should say, a lot of introspection, seeing where a lot of thoughts and feelings come from, reconciling some of those feelings I've had for a really, really long time. And then that led me to performing at a poetry slam a couple of weeks ago here in Guelph, and that was so much fun. I'm going back. It's through a community organization called Guelph Spoken Word, and these guys were really awesome because they actually came out and they rented a ramp for me for my wheelchair. They went above and beyond the call of duty for me. It was really, really cool to see them actually team up and do something like that for me, who's a new member within the community. And I'm really hoping to get up there more often. The guy who won the night did a Wolverine poem, which was really, really, really awesome. And when he walked past me, I think the guy's name was Tommy. I'm like, yo, go get him, Weapon X. So that was like really cool. And I had a lot of fun with that. Second thing, so you may have seen me talk about this on my Twitter and my Instagram, which is @BirdmanDodd. I spoke to the elder that I trust in my community. His name is Maingan, and he works with the University of Waterloo, and I've come to know him through my time at Conestoga College. And he's been kind of working with me spiritually and culturally to, help me through the process of relearning who I am as a Anishinaabe person, or Ojibwe, which is my particular tribe. And part of the big thing that's happened this past week is I decided to ask him to help me find my name. And in indigenous cultures, that you may know it as a spirit name. So I am going to be going through my naming ceremony this coming weekend, next Sunday, which means you might get the show a little bit early, depending if I can edit it that quick that Sunday night. So we're going to be doing that next Sunday. My Ingan's going to come here. Blair's going to be here. Shannon's going to be here. And then we're going to go through, I'm not entirely sure what yet. Part of the ceremony involves giving a gift, which is like usually a small, useful item, like a pen or something. It might be, in my case, well, I guess I really shouldn't spoil the surprise, so to speak. So I will give a lot more detail next week. And yeah, so what does that mean going forward on the show? I guess I'll probably still stick with Birdman as sort of my podcast handle, so to speak, but you may see my name change on Twitter. It'll always be Birdman Dodd, because I've had that since like 2007, and it's just a really easy Twitter handle to remember. So frankly, marketing. But you might see my name change on Facebook. You might see it change on the Twitter heading, but I'm always going to be Mike. So that'll be really, really, really cool. So we're going to be doing that next week. Other than that, I've been playing a lot of video games. I did a full renegade playthrough of Mass Effect 1, Mass Effect 2. I'm just starting Mass Effect 3 as a male shep, which is... I haven't done a full renegade playthrough in like 10 years. So a lot of this dialogue and a lot of these choices are really new to me. So being the unmitigated psycho that Shepard can be is certainly unexperienced, considering Mark is like a friend, and just hearing him kicking somebody out a window is certainly something else, or shooting somebody in the back. So you're like, holy shit. So that's a thing. So other than that, I'm starting a new game this week for review. Hopefully we'll get it out by next week. Me and Alex both got a copy of Tiny Tina's Wonderland on the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. So we'll be taking a look at that later on. And I know a new piece of DLC for that just dropped, so we will be doing that. I've started working on my first professional writing project. I don't want to say too much of what it is just yet. If you've been following my Twitter and Instagram, you might have an idea. But I have to put together a couple of pitches first. So I'm writing out little scenarios for a role-playing game. I can say that. And if everything works out right, we will see where this goes. I mean, it would be wonderful to be involved in the tabletop industry in this capacity, to be able to create. So I'm really, really, really excited about that. So I'll be sharing my thoughts in the future as things hopefully progress. And I guess finally this week, I am getting very close to my surgical weight that I need to be for my bariatric weight loss surgery. I've got another appointment coming up in early May, like within the first week and a half, I think, of May. And then if everything works out right, they're going to book an OR, and we'll see what happens. So they will rebuild me. I will be better. I will be literally full body prothesis, like RoboCop. Not really. I'll just be missing half my stomach. But hey, better than being dead, right? So anyway, guys, like I said, we got a lot of stuff to cover here on the show. We have reviews coming from Alex talking about some latest Troma releases. We have a D&D rules expansion gift set from Wizards of the Coast that they gave us for review. And we also have coming up from Wizards of the Coast the latest Critical Role book, Call of the Netherdeep. So stay tuned right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. I've been Mike the Birdman, and it's time to take us to the land of Dungeons and Dragons, the place of your imagination. This is my review of the latest game.
Dungeons and Dragons!
The entrance to the dungeon is a moss-covered door. You manage to open it, only to find yourself face-to-face with a hideous, foul-smelling, moss-covered ogre. What do you do?
I say, hey, Ma, what's for dinner?
17. The ogre is amused by your joke and allows you to pass. By the by, I liked it too.
Roll for initiative, my friends. It is I, your Dungeon Master, Mike the Birdman, and I'm here to talk to you about something I got for review earlier, and this is the Dungeons & Dragons Rules Expansion gift set, which includes Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, Xanathar's Guide to Everything, and Monsters of the Multiverse, plus you get a DM screen as well. Okay, so first things first, let's get this out of the way. 2 of these books are reprints, but if you don't have them, why the hell not? So I looked at this box set as something unique because I'm starting to look more into tabletop design, creating my own adventures from a more professional standpoint, so much so I'm considering putting stuff up on the DM's Guild this summer. So when I looked at this rule set and what it offers you as a dungeon master and with the right group of players, you are adding so much potential depth to your game that I really think if your dungeon master wants to go beyond, the core 3 books of the Monster Manual, the Player's Handbook, and the DM's Guide, this really takes it out on the open road and really opens up the engine, if you kind of get the metaphor there. The new book to this set, Mordenkainen's multiverse book, more or less, Monsters of the Multiverse, gives you 30 playable races, give or take, and there's stuff like Turtles, Tabaxi, Aasimar. I think you get like lizard folk, you get orcs, Yuan-Ti, all sorts of everything, and they're all updated to the most up-to-date version of the rules and the errata. There might be some things that are changed here and there, but they more or less work more seamlessly, and with some of the options that are in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, it makes things a little bit smoother for player creation, and especially with having those other 2 books, you're given a crap ton of new subclasses, some new, some old. There's going to be something for literally everything here. So, and in addition to that, in Monsters of the Multiverse, you're also getting like 200 plus new monsters. One of the coolest ones that I like was something called a Corpse Devourer, and it like wanders around battlefields and it makes itself stronger. It's either before battle or just after. There's this thing called, I think it's called a Gray Renderer, and it can like you as a pet. It becomes intensely loyal to you. The problem is this thing's like a bull in a china shop. It's going to trash everything. Like it may randomly freak out at birds, stuff like that. There's stuff what happens if you try to become a lich and you somehow manage to screw up the process. Well, you may become, I think it's called a Bone Claw or a Death Claw. They talk about what happens when you're a warlock and you piss off your deity and you don't live up to your end of the bargain. Guess what? You work for them no matter what now. And one of the coolest monsters that I discovered in there was, there are 2 ones that I really like. One, it's a monster that comes from the dreams of a beholder formed from its nightmares. And these things can like hunt in packs. There's also another version of this, kind of like, I guess, a variant, that follows the beholder around like a puppy. And the beholders just kind of tolerate it, but sometimes they grant them as familiars to wizards so they can see through that little spawn's eye, sort of thing. Kind of cool. There's also a jelly and a pudding that comes from the Underdark, which eats memories. It was created by the Mind Flayers, I think, and it hides in like treasure chests and shit like that. And there's one of my favorite monsters of all time. I think it came out of Xanathar's, I think, or maybe it was Volo's Guide to Monsters. I can't remember where, but it's called a Varghuli. And this thing is so badass. I've had a chance to use it twice in a game. It didn't end well, is all I gotta say. It was really, really cool. So, and then you get a really nice DM screen. Nothing really to say there. Really, really good looking artwork on it, though. I do like it. Plus, these books do have that pseudo foil cover variant to them. So, the question is going to be asking yourself, you and your table, do you want to invest in this? Because on Amazon.ca, as of today's recording, it's going for $132, and that's 40% off. And that's a regular retail price of 221 Canadian. Now, if you're American, this price should be a little bit lower, but generally they're relatively comparable. So if you and your dungeon master, if you guys are really planning something really long term, I think this is wonderful. Just the fact that you have so many new races and classes, and having it all in one location as opposed to spread across like all the books that have ever been published up to date. You're getting new fiends to fight against you if you want to fight gods of the 9 hells. We can do that for you. So you can literally create any type of adventure you want. And I'm going to close by saying this. If you're someone who really wants to start creating content for the DMs Guild, I think having this as a resource you have available to you would be tremendously beneficial, because you're having the most up-to-date version of the rules. You have all these different playable races and classes. You can really build something really epic and powerful when you're creating new NPCs or adventures here. Plus, I think it's a wonderful looking set. So if you don't own these books, definitely worth checking out. However, the multiverse book is going to be available on its own later on this summer or this spring, so keep an eye out for that. So until next time, adventurers, I leave you to roll at advantage.
Goldberg and his merry band of meatheads are no show.
Congrats, boys. You just earned yourself a cheese pizza.
I have been in real dungeon.
But we did show. Ready to roll. Some dice.
Dungeons and Dragons, anyone?
Whatever. By the end of this game, you guys aren't going to know what end of the Staff of the Magi you're holding.
Well, if you're casting Confusion, the Staff of the Magi gives the user a +2 on saves versus magic, so, good luck with that.
They've learned our ways.
Enough talk, let the battle begin.
D&D is my favorite game. I like the way you battle, but you use your brain, just like I'm the king of the board.
The Prime Minister of Sweden visited Washington today, and my tiny little nipples went to France.
Gossip, rumors, panic in the streets. We're lucky.
This Week in Geek
News.
All right, we are back here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm still your host, Mike the Birdman. All right, so we're going to dive into the latest news that happened around the entertainment geek world and just playing around planet Earth this past week. And I'm only going to be covering 4 stories this week. These are some of the ones that caught my attention. And I've got something to say about them. So the first story comes courtesy of BloodyDisgusting.com. Lionsgate's plotting the return of the Leprechaun franchise. There have been 8 films in the Leprechaun franchise to date, with 2018's Leprechaun Returns most recently heading back to the original movie's timeline in the wake of the reboot Leprechaun Origins 4 years prior. What's next for the franchise, you ask? Bloody Disgusting sources indicate that Lionsgate is actively seeking out pitches for the next Leprechaun movie. So what more can you expect from the mischievous horror icon soon? We'll report more as soon as we hear it. On that note, Darren Lyle Bousman, Saw 2 to 4, Repo the Genetic Opera, Spiral from the Book of Saw, has been publicly asking Lionsgate to let him tackle a new installment in the horror comedy Leprechaun franchise for over 10 years now. And he recently teased his vision in a chat with Bloody Disgusting. For starters, he definitely bring back Warwick Davis. I would like to make a more direct sequel to the Leprechaun franchise, Bousman told BD's Jason Jenkins last year. I would not reboot it. I don't want to do that. I would demand that Warwick Davis come back. I wouldn't do it without him, Bousman added in the chat. I would not try to change the tone. I would make it equally as batshit bonkers crazy. It would be between the first film and Back to the Hood. It would be somewhere in that tonal frame. It got really ridiculous as they went on, but that ridiculousness is what made them fun. The Leprechaun franchise kicked off with Mark Jones' original horror comedy in 1993, which was followed by 5 Warwick-starring sequels, a reboot, and later Leprechaun Returns in 2018. Even though Leprechaun Returns was a sequel to the original movie, Lyndon Porco took over the role of the titular character, played by Dylan Postal, for Leprechaun Origins. Okay, so I remember watching the Leprechaun movie with my friend Quincy. I remember renting it from the video store in 93 or 94. We were having a sleepover do kids still do that anymore? I don't know. And yeah, I just remember having a lot of fun. And recently, like within the last year, I watched Leprechaun 1 through 4. And then I can't remember which one had like iced tea in it, but I'm like, really? It's a fantastically goofy and stupid franchise. In fact, my sister Shannon I think she'd get a huge kick out of this. She plays a game called Dead by Daylight. There's like Michael Myers, Leatherface, Freddy in there. Okay, you know what? Fuck it. Let's get the Leprechaun in there. And I don't know, make the ability to spawn out of pots of gold or to give the gold coin you can mark somebody. That'd be cool. Just putting that out there. Devs of Dead by Daylight. I don't know, throw me something cool and you can have the idea. But yeah, I mean, I think a horror comedy works more now. I mean, reboots of franchises can be okay. Direct sequels can be okay. I haven't seen the later ones. I know one of the Leprechaun movies starred Hornswoggle from WWE. So, all right, yeah, sure. Why not? Because insanity. The thing I liked about Leprechaun was honestly Warwick Davis. He was like a stupider Freddy. But I don't know who was more cruel and sadistic. I mean, Warwick Davis punctured a guy's lung with like a pogo stick and made a girl's lips and ass explode because she wanted to be beautiful forever or something. It was one of the most ridiculous kills I've ever seen in my life. And then another guy fucked a robot or something. I know, right? Because cinema. But yeah, I totally think they should do it. I think having Warwick back in the makeup one last time before he ages out of it would be fantastic. I mean, the dialogue has to be sharp. The idea can be stupid as hell. I bet you there's probably a COVID Leprechaun movie in there somewhere where, I don't know, they go to like a museum somewhere far away. I don't know, maybe in Asia or something, or maybe in like Europe in the middle of like a lockdown and the thieves break in and they find, the leprechaun's gold, and before they can run away with it, one of them pockets one of the pieces and then he comes back from the dead. Man, I want Leprechaun and Wishmaster to team up. You know how fucking cool that would be? Because Andrew Divoff, I think that was the guy that played Wishmaster, was just awesome. Now I'm just getting sidetracked and thinking like dream projects. But no, seriously, I would love to see the series come back. Like I said, it's goofy, it's stupid, it's fun, and why the hell not? I mean, we're getting a new Evil Dead movie sometime soon, so everything that is old is new again, and why not, right? So that one, again, comes courtesy of BloodyDisgusting.com. Okay, so you heard me talk in the beginning about Dungeons and Dragons. So let's talk about that. So the Dungeons and Dragons movie announces title and release date. Paramount Pictures announces that its highly anticipated live-action Dungeons and Dragons movie, subtitled Honor Among Thieves, launches in March 2023. Paramount Pictures finally unveiled the release date for its title Dungeons and Dragons movie. Announced via the first official D&D Direct event, the brief teaser trailer sees the dramatic assembly of the Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves logo. The studio also confirmed the movie will premiere on March 3rd, 2023. No further details on the film were provided, but fans are looking forward to seeing how the iconic tabletop role-playing game will be adapted for the big screen. We can look forward to more updates in the coming months. While little is known about Honor Among Thieves, the film boasts an all-star cast. Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez, Hugh Grant, Justice Smith. One of these names I just can't pronounce. There are two of these names I just can't pronounce. Are set to star in the movie. While details around their characters are still unknown, Pine has teased the D&D movie is drawing inspiration from a variety of fantastical sources. The way I've been describing it, it's like Game of Thrones mixed with a little bit of Princess Bride, just a smidge of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. It's somewhere in that ballpark. It's a lot of fun. It's got a lot of thrills. It's poppy. It's 80s heartfelt. There's a bit of Goonies in there. While plenty of Dungeons & Dragons is rooted in action-packed brawls and adventures across strange lands, director John Francis Daly and Jonathan Goldstein also wanted to embrace the comedy that comes with playing a game with friends. We want it to be fun. It's not an out-and-out comedy, but it's an action fantasy movie with a lot of comedic elements and characters we hope people will really get into and enjoy watching their adventures, Goldstein explained Daly. Daly elaborated, while they're setting out to have fun with the fantasy genre, parody was never the goal. So we never wanted to spoof the genre of fantasy or take the piss out of it, but we did want to find another way into it that we necessarily hadn't seen before, said Daly. D&D is widely considered to be the most iconic tabletop role-playing game of all time. First launched in 1974, the game has received various updated versions and expansions, steadily growing into one of Wizards of the Coast's most successful franchises. The game has been adapted into an assortment of TV series, movies, comic books, novels, and video games. D&D Honor Among Thieves hits theaters March 3rd, 2023. I'm really looking forward to this. I think, you know what? And I'm going to catch hell for this. So Mike at ThisWeekInGeek.net or feedback at ThisWeekInGeek.net. I didn't mind the first D&D movie. Now, before you crucify me, I liked how it was a cross of that action-adventure goofiness, right? And if the script is smart, you can play to that strength. Because let's not forget, Game of Thrones had some pretty funny moments in it too. I remember when the Mountain had a guy, or not the Mountain, when it was the Hound. The Hound had a guy dead to rights. And he's like, do you have any last words before you die? And the guy's like, fuck you. And the Hound looks at him and says, really? That's all you have to say before you're going to die? And the guy's like, well, yeah. And then he cuts off his head or something. So I could see this being really cool. I mean, and I hope we get the right kind of monsters. I mean, being a D&D movie, if you're going to do a dragon, we've already seen what Game of Thrones can accomplish. What can a big budget movie do with it? In terms of monsters for me, a Beholder would be great. In fact, seeing Xanathar would be really cool. I would love to see, I think it's called a gibbering mass or maw. It's basically this slime covered in maws and like basically mouths with like teeth and like eyeballs, and it drives you nuts. A mind flayer would be really cool. I would love to see an intellect devourer, zombies, a troll, and I'm talking a real troll, not this Lord of the Rings shit. I'm talking a troll that can only die by killing it with fire or acid or like necrotic damage. So that'll be cool. And if the D&D license is smart, they will do all sorts of tie-ins to this. There'll be a campaign box set. The characters from the movie will be available for free for a limited time on the D&D website. This is pure speculation, by the way. And I would say anybody who goes to see the movie gets a dice set. And I say that because of this. So way back in the day, back in 1997 or so, when the Star Wars special editions were coming out, when you saw Return of the Jedi, they handed out a Power of the Force to Luke as a Jedi Knight. And every theater got them. So what I'm saying is the first however many people to show up at this movie, each theater gets like 50 of these dice sets, and you will get people talking. And I think that's a really good way. And then you synergize that with whatever else you got to do. Like, I think you could do something really awesome. Hell, why doesn't D&D and medieval times do like a team up leading up to the movie or something? I don't know. Again, just spitballing here. Who knows? But yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I really enjoy Chris Pine. Michelle Rodriguez is a bit of a weird choice, but hey, I've liked her in almost everything I've seen her in, but I haven't seen her in anything that isn't either over the top goofy or just kind of bad for its own reason. So, hey, I'm looking forward to Honor Among Thieves as soon as pre-order for tickets go up, I give you my word, I'm definitely going to this. Okay, so this one just makes my heart sing in all the right ways, and I'm so happy for this. So, courtesy of superherohype.com, the original TMNT voice cast returns for Shredder's Revenge video game. The upcoming video game Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge doesn't exactly hide its influences. Its updated take on Konami's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game, both of which were based on the original TMNT animated series from 1987. Although 35 years have passed since the series premiere, the 4 actors who voiced the Turtles on that show are making a comeback. IGN is reporting that Cam Clark will reprise his role as Leonardo, alongside Townsend Coleman as Michelangelo, Barry Gordon as Donatello, and Rob Paulson as Raphael. Additionally, IGN debuted the first 11 minutes of gameplay, which would look very familiar to anyone who played the Konami games. The first half of the video follows Leonardo and Michelangelo as they pursue Bebop through the Channel 6 news building. Note that Vernon Fenwick is held hostage in the background. That is a role that was typically filled by April O'Neil on the show. However, April is a playable character in the game, and she probably won't be kidnapped this time. The Turtle Sensei Splinter is also a playable character. For the second half of the video, Raphael and Donatello take the spotlight as they catch up with Rocksteady. Again, the stage is very similar to the second area from Konami's first TMNT game. There's even a callback to Turtle Time when the guys toss a foot soldier towards the screen. TMNT Shredder's Revenge will hit PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and PC later on this year. Yes, if you're going to do a throwback property, do it right. This is awesome. This game looks so cool, and it's such a good time to be a fan, too. Like, this is one of those games I assure you I'm going to get on the Switch, and I'm probably going to get it again for probably, I don't know, maybe PlayStation, so I can capture really good screenshots out of it. I love almost anything Turtles, and as soon as the Turtles collection comes out later on this year, I'm really looking forward to that. I mean, there's a really awesome collector's edition for it right now. You can get across almost every single console. Now, I don't have that type of money to afford that, but it's really, really, really neat. I mean, I can afford a video game, but I can't afford a $200 collector's edition anymore. Sorry, I'm 40 years old. I just don't have that kind of money anymore. But yeah, I mean, when a developer takes the time to do something right, it makes me tremendously happy. Like, I would love to see, if you wanted to, and I think you could do this properly, especially now that we have so many of the voice actors still around, we still have good developers. If you're going to remaster arcade games or, games inspired by classic media, give me the X-Men arcade game from the 1990s. Maybe skin it with the X-Men from the animated series, or give me a beat 'em up from the X-Men, the animated series. And yes, I realize some of the character voices have passed away. I know the guy who played Cyclops passed away. I know Magneto has passed away. But I'm pretty sure a majority of the voice cast is still around. I know Cal Dodd's coming back as Wolverine for the Disney Plus series whenever that comes out. So I'm trying to think of like other things you could do. You could do a Simpsons game. Like, Disney has more money than God. Imagine a new DuckTales game. And we're not that far out from DuckTales remastered, like less than 10 years. So if you got the cast of the old show back together, or make a new Darkwing Duck game, like a side scroller, or new Chippendale Rescue Rangers, providing that atrocity doesn't turn out to be terrible. Or, I mean, if anything, if you guys remember from, I guess it would be less than 5, I want to say, maybe less than 7 for sure. When Transformers Devastation came out, they had Peter Cullen back, they had Frank Welker, they had Dan Gilvezan back as Bumblebee, Greg Berger as Grimlock. You can do it right. You just have to care about what you're doing. And it doesn't have to be this huge AAA title. It helps, but you could do something really fun. Like, just imagine what a new Simpsons game could be. People have been asking for a new hit and run for frigging years. So, TMNT, you can damn well count on us covering that game. I will buy a copy regardless. So, Take that. Anyway, moving on to our next story and our last story of the week. So this one comes courtesy of comicbook.com. And of course it would do that, because why wouldn't it? Okay, so this says Nicolas Cage is in talks about Face Off 2. With the unbearable weight of massive talent heading into theaters this weekend. By the way, go fucking see it. It is amazing. I saw that with Shannon and her boyfriend Sam. Best time I've had in the movies in years. And don't get me wrong, I loved Ghostbusters. I had fun at I'm trying to think of what else, like Spider-Man and all the big Marvel stuff. But this is the first time I've actually laughed out loud at a movie this hard in years. It was phenomenal. So anyway, Nicolas Cage has seen a resurgence of a spotlight as he leads the already acclaimed film. With Cage playing a fictionalized version of himself with roots in reality, massive talent includes references to many well-known Cage projects which Cage starred. This includes footage, props, and more to acknowledge the legend's career. Among those titles referenced in Massive Talent is Face Off, where Cage starred with John Travolta in a film which saw the two actors as characters who swapped faces and voices. Now it seems a new edition of Face Off is on the table. A Face Off sequel I can talk about because there have been some phone calls with Neil Moritz, who I enjoyed very much working with on the first Face Off, Cage said. He's one of the true great producers in Hollywood, and they've been making some calls. The other ones, like National Treasure, I mean, their priority was a TV show, so Godspeed to them, but maybe Face Off, maybe. Reports have surfaced which indicate Moritz, well known for his work on the Fast and the Furious franchise, is developing a Face Off sequel for Paramount. For now, Cage fans can look forward to the most caged up movie of all time in the form of Massive Talent, which how it calls to Cage to play a down on his luck and egotistical version of himself. Writer and director Tom Gormican was originally a bit nervous to pitch the film to the actor. When we were giving him the script for the first time, we were thinking the first act of our film is really Nick at his lowest point, Gormican shared. And we were like, is he going to read the first 10 pages of this and throw it across the room? Like, there's no way I'm doing this. And we thought if he could just get to the end of the film where he's the hero and we've got a shot at this thing. But yeah, we were always nervous about it. Cage, however, enjoyed the script and thought brought Massive Talent movie to life. According to Cage, it's like the ultimate date night movie and everything on his resume. This one, definitely Massive Talent, definitely. If it's a date night, absolutely, which it was for me and Shannon and Sam. I was the third wheel, but hey, party on. I have two wheels. Fuck off. But go to the cinema because the two of you are going to laugh. You guys are going to have so much fun. It's like a family experience with everybody in the audience. I saw it at the cinema and we were laughing together. It was very communal and it was very electric. And this is a movie for date night, no question. And then the article finishes off by asking if we want to see another Face Off movie. Well, after seeing what Nick Cage did in Face Off, I would be very interested to see what that would look like, considering Castor Troy is dead, but is he known to be dead? I know his brother Pollux, I think was his brother's name, is known to be dead, and John Archer, John Travolta's character, obviously lived, killed evil John Travolta, and he was still wearing his face, and he got his face back at the end of the movie. But, science. So did they put it in like a jar or something and keep it? You know what? Cool. If you could get the guy who does John Wick and John Woo to have a phone call and come up with some amazing amalgamation of this and yet still have it be Nick Cage worthy, I think that could be really awesome. Because let's face it, Nick isn't, in the prime of his life when it comes to being physical. Like, he's not Con Air or The Rock Nick. He is more subdued because, he's gotten older, and that's just the way Hollywood is. So, yeah, if we got something like Face Off 2, if it had the right budget, the right directors, the right script, I would like to get the guys from John Wick, or, I don't know, maybe one of the guys who wrote the original Die Hards. I think you could do something really fun there. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe Sylvester Stallone's got something going on because he can always pull people from the Expendables. So, I don't know. Hey, Nick Cage and the Expendables is going to be really fucking cool. Just putting that out there. So anyway, we're going to take a small break here on ThisWeekInGeek.net, and when we do, we're going to take a listen to what Alex has to offer from his latest Blu-ray reviews coming to us from Troma. We'll be back, guys, right after this.
Alex here with just a quick overview of some of these recent Troma releases on Blu-ray. In the past, Troma's had sort of an off and on again relationship when it comes to high definition. I believe Toxic Avenger has been released a couple of times, but when it comes to some of the lesser known pictures, a lot of them were stuck on DVD for the longest time. Well, now Troma has decided to do sort of a relaunch of some of their titles, and we have a few that I want to talk about here in this roundup. One is the Sexy Box, and that contains 3 of their earlier, teen sex comedies that were really the big rage in the late 70s, early 80s. I guess you could probably pinpoint it back to when Porky's came out and Meatballs, and that kind of popularized the genre outside of just like late night drive-ins. Inside of the set is Waitress, The First Turn On, and Stuck on You. Of the 3, I would say Stuck on You probably has the best premise and is the funniest of the bunch. But in general, these are of the era. A lot of the jokes aren't going to fly in today's day and age in general. But as far as how they look, this is the first time that a lot of these films have had a proper remastering. And the old DVDs were almost like from Betacam quality. So they've had a proper remastering. They haven't done like any digital noise reduction on any of them, but they have done a bit of a cleanup. There's no like dirt and debris on the picture at all. They also have done a bit of a cleanup job on the audio. Nothing to write home about there, but each of these films has all of the special features that Troma is known for. Troma has always put a ton of effort into the creation of all of their extra features to give as much value as possible to each of their releases. So it has everything that each of these originally came with, plus brand new introductions from Lloyd Kaufman, who, interestingly enough, our history at TWIG with Troma is, if you're a listener from way back, even way before my time, Birdman actually ran a semi-official Troma podcast with Lloyd Kaufman. I ran a bunch of episodes. I've got to go and dig them up and see if we still have them in our archive, because they're going on the 10-year probably mark or more. So back in the day, we had a pretty formal relationship with them. And then, of course, things fell out. So it's interesting to go back to some of these releases and check them out and how different they are. And it's nice seeing Uncle Lloyd, who filmed all of those intros. So they have the original intros from when the VHS and DVD releases came out, in the 15 to 20, 25 year mark. And then there's new ones that he recorded, it looks like during the pandemic, where his hair's all grown out and he's just running towards the camera and talking. And it's always nice to see him film that little bit extra before every release. As well as this Sexy Box, which is a good value because you get the 3 films. We also have 2 new releases, new to Blu-ray, that is, in Bloodhook and Surf Nazis Must Die. Now for Bloodhook, I had heard of this but never seen it before. It's a slasher in, the perfect sense of that mid-80s, let's pick a basic premise and then just turn it into a slasher. So it's about a fishing contest and then murder starts to happen, obviously. Now there's brand new introduction with Lloyd Kaufman. There's interviews with the cinematographer. There is an interview with one of the actresses. There's original theatrical trailers, little bits and pieces, little Easter eggs thrown in. They produced a few more for this release as well. And the release does come with both a Blu-ray and the DVD of the film. So it's interesting because it doesn't actually say that from what I can see on the box, but until you open it up and you're like, oh, there's 2 discs in here, and one is the HD version and one is the standard def. So it's nice that they threw that in there as well. As for Surf Nazis Must Die, that's a film that I saw when I was a little kid. And when I say little, I was like 10, 11 years old and rented it. I thought it was cool. And it is probably one of the more known of the non-superhero themed Troma films. And It is basically a black mama, as they sort of describe her in the film, goes on a rampage to kill the surf Nazis that are terrorizing her neighborhood. And it's a ridiculous exploitation Troma film. Had a really good remastering job here. It looks the best it's ever looked. Same deal. All the special features that were in previous releases are included because obviously Troma owns all their own films. So they're recycling all their old stuff. So you're not losing anything if you have to double dip. And new introduction, new cleaner audio, much better picture, proper widescreen versus a lot of the DVDs and VHSs were obviously full screen. So they've done a good job remastering this stuff and keeping it fresh so that it looks good on a bigger screen. Because if you look at the old Troma DVDs and you watch them on a bigger screen, they look pretty murky. So this is a good job. No digital noise reduction. If you're a Troma fan, I would suggest picking them up. If you are somebody who's new to Troma in general, Surf Nazis Must Die out of the bunch is probably the best one to go with. But I'm hoping that they start releasing more of these films. I'd love to see like a Sergeant Kabuki Man get a proper Blu-ray remaster now, and maybe a reissue of the Toxic Avenger films.
Go crazy?
Don't mind if I do!
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria!
Thank you for that, Alex. All right, guys. Well, we are back here on TWIG, otherwise known as ThisWeekInGeek.net, the flagship of stupidity. And it's time to dive into the strange, the unusual, the most fucked up things that happen on this planet. I actually had to cut a story this week because, you know what? I don't want to deal with that. That's depressing and tragic. So I'm cool with it. But we are going to start things off on kind of a funny note, and why you should always inform your employers of if you have any particulars that you wish to let them know about. So according to globalnews.ca and reported by multiple outlets, man awarded $450,000 after a surprise office birthday party triggers anxiety. A Kentucky man has been awarded $450,000 after his former employer threw him a surprise birthday party when he specifically asked them not to. Kevin Burling told his office manager of Gravity Diagnostics that he didn't want the customary surprise party thrown for employees on their birthday because he suffers from an anxiety disorder. It would not do well at such a gathering, reports NBC News. Regardless, the company threw him a party over a lunch hour in August 2019. The person who was responsible for the birthday parties who we talked to flat out forgot about his request, Burling's lawyer Tom Butcher told Link NKY. She wouldn't do it to be mean. She said she would accommodate it and she just forgot. Butcher said Burling began to have a panic attack when he learned about the party and went out to his car to regulate his breathing before returning to his workday. However, the next day, management called Burling in for a meeting to discuss the party. According to my client, she started reading him the riot act and accused him of stealing other co-workers' joy, Butcher said, adding that Burling started to have another panic attack as a result of the confrontation. At this point, he starts employing other coping techniques that he's worked on for years with his therapist, Butcher said, but the way he described it is that he started hugging himself and asked them to please stop. According to Fortune, Burling was sent home and told not to return that week. A few days later, the lawsuit claims he was sent a termination letter citing the party and ensuing events as a result of his firing. Burling sued Gravity Diagnostics for disability discrimination and retaliation and was awarded almost $500,000 on March 31st of this year. The court awarded him $150,000 in lost wages and benefits and $300,000 for suffering, embarrassment, and loss of self-esteem. The co-founder and COO of the company, Julie Brazil, told the New York Times that Burling was terminated for violating a workplace violence policy, and they stand by their decision. She told the news that Burling clenched his fists and his face turned red, scaring his supervisors. They were absolutely in fear of physical harm during that moment, she said. They are both still shaken about it today. My employees were the victims in this case, not the plaintiff, Brazil told Link NKY. Butcher responded in a statement, NBC reports, saying employers shouldn't make assumptions about individuals with mental health issues. Kevin was an exceptional employee that went above and beyond for his employer, and if they would have taken a step back, it would have been clear that he did not present any danger at all. Butcher told the Times his client's actions in the meeting were efforts to calm himself during a panic attack and not an act of aggression. Brazil says her company plans to challenge the verdict. Hey, here's an idea. Take the L and not be a piece of shit. I mean, it's no secret, folks, that I work as a volunteer with the Guelph NDP. And as a result, I do a lot of advocacy for disability. That includes mental disabilities as well. And I had a couple friends during college that actually developed severe anxiety, so much so that it started to impact their life. And as they moved on throughout life, they did get a different diagnosis. And, you know, some of them are coping better than others, but it's not our place to say how and one should cope. And it sounds like the person who sued this company, the birthday party goer, we'll call him, he had therapy. He made his wishes explicitly clear. And to say she just forgot, why wouldn't she just leave the meeting, put that in her personnel file, and like flag it as like, I don't know, a request of some kind? The excuse, I forgot about it, doesn't quite fly here. Like, my employee, like, he turned red and he clenched his fist. Motherfucker, he's not Mike Tyson, who did punch a guy. Don't fuck with Mike Tyson. But, you know, I'm just saying, like, come on. They're still shaken by it today. But then again, I literally just finished saying, you don't know how people are going to react. Honestly, I don't think they're challenging the verdict's going to change much here. Long story short, don't be a piece of shit. You are protected. You do have certain rights as an employee as long as you let your employer know. And that's always a bit of a tricky thing because not everybody wants to disclose that they have a disability. And it's one of those things that people are still uncomfortable talking about today in 2022. Like, for example, if I went into a workplace right now, I would need pretty severe accommodations for what I would require. And I really don't want to get into that, but let's just say I have more complicated medical needs than what is probably publicly known. So it's just, it's tricky, but at the same time, he did make the effort to say, please don't. I don't want to go through this. And it happened. So you fucked around and you found out. You're going to challenge it. Bite my ass if you happen to win it. Okay, so I got this story courtesy of a friend of mine. This one comes courtesy of ksdk.com. Crash spills 500 pounds of marijuana on Missouri highway on 420. All that marijuana was trying to make its way across Missouri, but the trip came to a sudden end after a series of crashes on the I-70. You definitely don't see this every day, but it is 420. The Missouri State Patrol tweeted after a crash Wednesday that led to a marijuana bus. Missouri State Highway Patrol troopers responded to a three-vehicle crash on Interstate 70 Wednesday in Callaway County. Among the bits of plastic and bent metal scattered across the highway, troopers found something else: packaged marijuana. Not just a little, but a lot. After a gathering up of all the bags, the Highway Patrol said the pot weighed about 500 pounds. All that marijuana was trying to make its way across Missouri on 420, but the trip came to a sudden end after a series of crashes on the I-70. The Highway Patrol believes that a semi-trailer driver tried to avoid a previous crash when a pickup truck lost control and hit the back of the semi-trailer. Another semi-trailer went off the road, then hit the pickup truck. The Highway Patrol believes all the marijuana was in the pickup truck, which was occupied by two men and a woman from Mexico. The two men were arrested and charged with drug trafficking. All three suffered moderate injuries. No one was seriously injured in the crash. Don't transport drugs across state lines. Obvious. The fact that it happened on 420 is kind of funny. I mean, it would have been even funnier had they been listening to like Snoop Dogg or something, or if a cutout of Snoop Dogg was like riding in the passenger seat, or they had like tons of copies of High Times. And it's weird because I'm not sure what states still kind of regulate a lot of their recreational marijuana, but 500 pounds is not exactly recreational. You are not the Dog Father himself. You are not the cast and crew behind High Times, nor are you going out to Kevin Smith's house anytime soon. So maybe don't do this, because, you know, drug trafficking bad. But up here in Canada, for example, cannabis laws are very different, where you can grow your own up to a certain limit. You can have like so many plants and however that works. I use marijuana primarily in edibles because it deals with my nerve pain. As I mentioned earlier, talking about invisible disabilities. As an amputee, for example, I suffer from something called phantom limb. And that's where I can feel a limb that's not there. In my case, my pain manifests as someone is taking my left foot and curling my toes around or bending my toes back. Sometimes it's a sharp stabbing pain in my former heel, but obviously it's not there. The bone is literally disintegrated. So having edibles helps deal with that nerve pain. Plus, sitting in a wheelchair all day, you might think, well, that's a big deal. People sit in their offices all day. Yeah, but if I need to get around for a few hours, it's not as easy as you might think. And these things aren't exactly the most comfortable places in the world. And I have blankets and a Roho cushion on mine, and it still kills my like tailbone. So yeah, do dumb, get caught. I guess I'm glad you're not more seriously hurt, because, don't wish harm upon anybody. But also don't be a drug dealer if you can help it, I guess. But hey, it's America. Who knows? So, final story this week, and this is going to bring you a little bit of joy into your life. So, according from mlive.com, so let me click that thing. Cat known for huge eyes, wonky feet, to become a mayor of a small Michigan town. From Hell, Michigan, I love this place. A cat known for her oversized eyes and wonky feet is about to become the mayor of a small Michigan town. And it's not just any town. This little black cat will rule over Hell, located 20 minutes northwest of Ann Arbor. Anyone can become mayor of Hell for a day. It's the part of the town's shtick. Pets, though, are another thing. Sunday, April 24th, so that's today, will actually be the first time a cat will make sure all hell doesn't break loose. Jinx's owner, Mia, rescued her 3 years ago, and the two have been inseparable ever since. Wherever Mia is, Jinx is. Wherever Jinx is, Mia is. The duo lives in California. Mia, who goes by the name Mia Jinx on Twitter, declined to have her last name used for the story to keep some anonymity due to Jinx's huge social media following. We're talking 735,000 followers on TikTok and over 400,000 on Instagram. Well, I guess I know who I'm following after the show. I rescued Jinx in 2018, and I wasn't even looking for a cat, Mia told MLive. I came home early from a football game. I was supposed to be home much later. I heard meowing in my backyard and discovered her. She was super tiny, only about 3 weeks old. As Jinx grew over the days and weeks, Mia noticed her new kitten appeared to be a little different. She had big eyes, and as she grew bigger, her eyes didn't get any smaller. I also noticed she had big feet. She doesn't have a condition, and the vet says she's healthy. She just has these birth defects. She's also not as agile as most cats and a little clumsy. She's only learned how to land on her feet a year ago. Jinx will rule over Hell for a day from afar. Mia plans to live stream via Jinx's Twitch page at around 4:30 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific, where she will make the big announcement for viewers. Mia also plans to create graphs jokingly showing how Jinx won the election to become the mayor by a landslide, along with what her proclamation decrees will be for the day before she eventually is impeached by the town's reverend. We love our in-person and distant mayors, said Reverend Vaughn of Hell, who will swear Jinx in via proclamation over the phone. Our mayor of the day package is the perfect gift for those who are hard to buy for and or have everything. They get to have one hell of a fun day, and at the end of it, will receive the dreaded phone call to be impeached. Just how did the owner of the viral cat from California discover the tiny town of Hell? She could make her beloved feline mayor for a day. I made a joke on Twitter saying, imagine Jinx will run for president. I'd also seen other animal mayors before, and I sent out a tweet asking how to make Jinx a mayor, and someone mentioned Michigan, and you could pay to be mayor of Hell for a day. The cost to rule Hell is $100 for both humans and now animals. It includes a mayoral proclamation certificate, a Hell souvenir mug, a souvenir shirt, and a certificate of impeachment. The mayor will also own property in Hell 1 square inch. Yo, can somebody do this for me for my birthday? I'm dead fucking serious. This would be so awesome. I just think that's awesome. Like, That is neat. I love it when, like, you hear these, like, pet stories. Like, I know there's a cat that runs a train station in Japan. There's countless cat librarians. I don't know. Animals make me happy. In fact, there's one animal on TikTok I'm such a huge fan of. My wife showed him to me last year. His name is Hamlet, and it's this stupid budgie or a parakeet or something. And it goes, "What doing?" And it squeaks and it talks and it goes, "Oh!" It laughs and then it gives the girl like kisses and stuff. It's adorable. There's also a girl I follow on Twitter who has like a duck who always goes to like Starbucks and gets a cup of like strawberry water. What else have I seen on TikTok? There's a hamster that I follow. There's all sorts of really, really, really weird shit. There's like hamsters, guinea pigs. One of my friends on Twitch, Fuya, has 2 cats, Link and Swain. I think that'd be pretty funny to get that for her birthday or something. Like, hey, guess what? Swain's going to be mayor of hell for a day. So yeah, anyway, that is tremendously cool. And I think that's a really good place to end today's news on. So if you want to rule hell for a day, look up Hell, Michigan. It's only $100. I would love that as a gift for like Dr. Wiley or something, or me. I don't care. Just do it. So anyway, folks, we're going to take another break here. We're going to take another dive into the realm of Critical Role and Dungeons and Dragons. We'll be back, folks, right after this.
What do you think defines this adventure the most? Because this, reading through it, because I have actually gone to actually read the book, it feels like a very role-playing focused adventure. I mean, there's plenty of threats. there's no lack.
Very much so. And there are plenty of dungeons and dangers and puzzles and, terrifying monsters to destroy and nail-biting bits of tension and races to partake in. But there's also an emphasis in having interactions and having the opportunities to kind of, for players new and old, comfortable with role-playing or not comfortable with role-playing, to kind of step out of their comfort zone and really kind of engage with the story beyond just, give us money to defeat a thing and we'll get experience and move on, which is...
Greetings once again, my friends. It is I, your Dungeon Master, Mike the Birdman, and I'm here with yet another review coming to us from Wizards of the Coast. I'm talking about Dungeons and Dragons Critical Role Call of the Netherdeep. So, I've made no secret of it that I'm really not into the Critical Role fandom. I'm not really particularly fond of the show, but I am exceptionally fond of the books. Explorer's Guide to Wildmount last year was one of the best books I'd read in a really long time. I love the idea of gravity and time magic. I just love all the new lore it added in. Honestly, the world of Critical Role is extremely interesting, and I really kind of dig it. So when I got Call of the Netherdeep, the interest for me was like, okay, I'm not so sure what to expect here. But as I started reading through the book, I am pleasantly surprised. In fact, I'm usually not a guy who likes adventure books to begin with, just because I've always been one of those game masters that just makes it up as I go, maybe with some points along the way. And following a pre-written path has always seemed a little funny to me. However, reading through this one, I like this one a lot. Like, a lot more than I thought it was. So I don't want to give too much away of the plot, but it starts out that you come to this small town and there is this big festival going on, and you'll do contests of strength, of like swimming, or one of the weirder ones and most fun ones is, here, eat as many of these meat pies as you can before you puke. And the person who doesn't puke wins. And a rival adventuring party is in town, and they become major antagonists or friends or whatever along the way. And this game is balanced for 5 people, although you could run it with less. Just means one of the rivals dies, or they don't exist, or if you have 5 or more players, one of them might, I don't know, have an identical twin or something, something weird. And you're setting up to basically reclaim this thing called the Jewel of 3 Prayers, and it ties into a person who has been forgotten by history and as a result has been driven nuts. And it's more roleplay heavy than I'd seen previous adventure series. I think under the right dungeon master, you can have a lot of interesting character moments in this, especially because this doesn't necessarily have to end with Conan watching out with his giant, two-handed greatsword and lopping someone's head off. But if you can do the Commander Shepard Paragon choice, you can do some really neat things here. And because it is set in the Critical Role world, you can expand this to talk to Wildmount. There's stuff that could happen before the adventure and stuff that happens after, as this is balanced, or you can start at levels 3 and go all the way up to level 12. And I really like this. I like the setup. I like the flavor text. There's even a caravan section in the beginning where they say, hey, this will happen along the road. Here are 6 random encounters. Pick one of these things that happens. Does it go good? Does it go bad? And this is a chance for you to interact with your rivals, whether you make them into true rivals or whether you kill them in the middle of the night, stuff like that. These guys will always keep coming back at you. And they don't have to. You don't have to play murder hobos. And I like that. Plus, just the lore of Critical Role interests me more than I thought it would. So much so, I might actually give the show another shot. So I am tremendously looking forward to it. If I've learned anything in the last few weeks, it's a great time to be a D&D fan. Dungeons & Dragons Direct just happened. We're getting Spelljammer and Dragonlance later on this year. That Spelljammer thing, I am so into that. I love the idea of pirates, and I love the idea of space pirates even more. And just being able to travel across the stars, that's cool. Dragonlance is something I've always been remarkably interested in, as I had a bunch of the books for D&D 2nd edition once upon a time. So, yeah, honestly, Dungeons & Dragons Critical Role Call of the Netherdeep is a fantastic adventure to run. I really, really, really like it. I think having the Explorer's Guide to Wildmount would certainly help you if you're not familiar with the show, but it does give you a session 0 idea, so you can tell people what they can understand if they're making characters in this world for the first time. But honestly, the world of Critical Role is worth checking out. I guess the fans are on to something. So until next time, folks, I will see you the next time that we roll initiative here, right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
We want to challenge or invite people to go ahead and kind of step even further if they haven't had that opportunity yet, or they've never played a game before at all, to really kind of realize that this is a living, breathing world, and these characters offer the opportunities to really, really embrace what makes role-playing games so unique.
All right, folks, well, that's going to do it for this edition of ThisWeekInGeek.net. Me! This has been the podcast for the last hour or so. So like I said, big thanks to everybody who decides to listen to the show. It does mean an awful lot to me and Alex. I guess to give you guys some updates. Okay, so as of today, we have 4 episodes recorded of Stargate SG-1 TWIG. You should have heard the other one this past weekend, so there are 3 more to come. We're recording 2 more on Tuesday, and then another one for the end of Season 1. Then we're going to take a break, and then we're going to see what's coming up next. Alex has talked about running Power Rangers from Renegade Game Studios. The core book is available now. I reviewed it a couple weeks ago. So check that out. We're hopefully going to be playing that. So I don't know whether Alex is going to just make up NPC Rangers, or if we would be like a smaller team. Like, I think RPM was small to start out with. There's only like 3 or 4 Ranger operators, or Ninja Storm only had so many. That's going to be coming up on the show. I have reached out to some companies. We're getting the G.I. Joe game. I'm looking forward to trying getting a hold of Transformers. Both of those come from Renegade Game Studios. I also have a Doctor Who interview with Cubicle 7. I'll be talking with one of the people over there. That'll be out probably within like a week or so. We did record some future imperfects. Those are in the can and edited. And we also have recorded some loose cannons as well. We just did one about a movie called Number One with a Bullet, and another movie called Shakedown. And we're talking about what else is going to be coming up later on this year, and as we move into the summer. And then I guess finally, the show might be out early next week, depending, just because I have my naming ceremony on Sunday if everything goes right. And I will be informing folks as to what's going on after that here on the show. So, yeah, it's going to be exciting times. So next week, I'll probably share my name after next week. So, like I said, we're going to record it hopefully a day early. And we'll see how things go down from there. So, folks, until next time, I want you to be safe, be smart. Please keep taking all possible precautions against COVID because, hey, we're not out of this just yet. Please support Ukraine and, wish your mothers a happy Mother's Day because that's coming up in like a week or so. So anyway, folks, until next time, I've been Mike the Birdman saying be excellent to each other. And I'll catch you guys again next week right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at ThisWeekInGeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@ThisWeekInGeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
Lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.